In the 1970s, America's Midwest wasn't just cornfields, it was a battlefield of horsepower. And the weapons? Not tanks, but tractors. International Harvester, John Deere, Alice Chalmers, three titans locked in a ruthless race to dominate American agriculture. Each year brought bigger, bolder, and riskier machines. In this horsepower war, one name stood out: DT-466 from International Harvester. A diesel engine praised as one of the toughest ever built. But few know its early years were a nightmare. Because IH did what no engineer should ever do. They pushed an unfinished engine to its limits. And the result? Broken crankshafts, ruined harvests, and betrayed farmers. So how did an engine that nearly got scrapped become a legend? Let's uncover the controversial story behind the DT-466, the engine that was once too hot to survive. In the early 1970s, John Deere rocked the market with its 6030 series, a tractor that shattered the 175 horsepower mark. It wasn't just a technical leap, it was a declaration of war. International Harvester knew, without a quick response, they'd lose ground in the most profitable segment of American farming. For IH, this wasn't just about horsepower, it was about survival. Brand loyalty ran deep in rural America. The color of a tractor, red, green, or orange, often reflected generations of allegiance. Falling behind on performance could mean losing an entire farm's equipment lineup. That pressure gave birth to an ambitious project, the DT-466 diesel platform. IH bet everything on this inline-six, 7.6-liter engine, with a wet-sleeve design for easy rebuilds and a heavy-duty cast-iron block built to withstand serious pressure, all aimed at durability and field serviceability. On paper, the DT-466 looked like a game-changer, and eventually it would be. But in the moment, IH made a critical mistake. They rushed it into production before it was ready to handle the brutal demands of high-power farm equipment. Thus began a legend and a technical tragedy. On paper, the DT-466 was a solid platform, but only when used within reason. The problem? In the frenzy of the horsepower wars, International Harvester chose to push it to the edge from day one. And their weapon of choice? Turbocharging. To match the competition, IH cranked up boost pressure and fuel delivery, squeezing out every last drop of horsepower. But they didn't reinforce the engine's internals to match. The result? A strong heart with a weak core. Crankshafts began to suffer fatigue fractures. Bearings wore out quickly as oil film broke down under high RPMs. Pistons seized. Exhaust gas temps soared past safe limits. And all of this happened within just a few hundred hours. Worse yet, farmers unknowingly made things worse. With just a turn of a wrench on the injection pump, they could unlock 20 to 30 more horsepower without realizing the engine was already running near redline from the factory. No intercooler, no upgraded bottom end, no warning. The DT-466 was like a sprinter forced to run a marathon at full speed. And the outcome? Broken harvests, dead tractors in the field, and a deep crack in customer trust. So what truly caused an engine, built on a solid foundation, to stumble so badly in its early years? The answer lies in a systemic engineering flaw. The DT-466 was designed too close to its mechanical limits. The block? Solid, but the rotating assembly? Too fragile. The crankshaft took massive torsional and impact loads during combustion. But at key junctions, near rod journals and main caps, the radii were too tight, making them prone to fatigue cracks. Main bearings, meant to stabilize that crank, were too narrow and couldn't handle prolonged heat and stress. At high RPMs or under heavy load, the oil film collapsed. Temperatures spiked, bearing surfaces failed, and the engine's bottom end began to fall apart. The problem wasn't the concept, it was how IH squeezed every ounce of output without leaving any mechanical breathing room. They engineered the DT-466 to deliver performance nearly at its physical limit. And when farmers added just a bit more, sometimes with just a twist of the fuel screw, the engine went far beyond what it was designed to handle. The DT-466 wasn't weak. It was simply never meant to be run the way IH advertised it. While the factory dragged its feet, it was the users, farmers, and mechanics who stepped up to save the DT-466. They didn't wait on engineers from Chicago. They took matters into their own hands. Some detuned the engine by backing off the injection pump, lowering boost to reduce internal stress and heat. Others swapped factory turbos for smaller ones, creating smoother power curves and less strain. Some even removed the turbo altogether, opting for a naturally aspirated setup to trade power for peace of mind. The Peterson family from Minnesota is a perfect example. After 2 engine blowouts during harvest, they didn't give up. They partnered with a mechanic experienced in heavy equipment, upgraded bearings, improved oil cooling, and installed a milder turbo. The result? Over 12,000 hours of operation, nearly twice the average lifespan. Not thanks to factory upgrades, but to the patience and ingenuity of everyday American farmers. The DT-466 was never flawless, but the community helped bring it a lot closer. Ironically, the early failures of the DT-466 could have been completely avoided if International Harvester had implemented a few basic upgrades from the start. The number one weak point was the crankshaft. With tight radii at rod journal transitions, it was prone to fatigue cracking under high stress. A larger radius, more mass, or stronger material could have dramatically improved durability. Next came the main bearings, too narrow and quick to lose oil film at high RPMs. The fix? Widen the bearing surface, use better heat-resistant alloys, and improve oil flow to critical areas. Another oversight: no intercooler. Under boost, intake air ran dangerously hot, raising combustion pressure and risking piston crown failure or cylinder scoring. Even a simple charge air cooler could have dropped temps and extended engine life significantly. And then there was tuning. Just dialing back fuel delivery or boost by 5 to 10% would have had minimal impact on real-world performance, but given the engine room to breathe. The irony? These upgrades weren't hard, and many field mechanics were already implementing them by 1975. The shame is, the factory didn't. The most surprising part of the DT-466 story is this: the engine that once enraged thousands of farmers became a symbol of American durability. The turning point came in the late 1970s, when International Harvester finally acknowledged the core weaknesses and took real action. By 1978, key upgrades began rolling out. The crankshaft was reinforced at stress points to prevent fatigue cracks. Main bearings were widened and made from stronger alloys. Oil flow was improved, delivering better lubrication to critical bottom-end components. Cooling capacity was expanded, with larger water pumps, improved jackets, and bigger oil coolers. By 1980, the DT-466B emerged, stronger, more stable, and ready for heavy-duty work. This time, engineers focused not on peak horsepower, but on longevity, serviceability, and sustainable performance. The result? Thousands of engines logged over 20,000 hours, and many trucks crossed 1,000,000 miles without ever pulling the valve cover. From freezing school buses to desert-bound haulers, the DT-466 started easily, ran cool, pulled hard, and never quit. When tuned right, the DT-466 didn't just survive. It lived a long, long life. The DT-466 was never perfect, but it proved that a solid design, when refined properly, can become legendary. What began as a turbocharged nightmare was brought back to life by the farmers who believed in it and perfected by the engineers who admitted their mistakes. What IH once rushed to market under pressure became a diamond in the rough once they stopped chasing horsepower and started building for durability. Today, the DT-466 remains known as one of the most reliable and long-lasting diesel engines in American history. But what about you? Have you ever driven, repaired, or heard stories about the DT-466? In your opinion, what's the most unkillable diesel engine of all time? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more legendary engine stories.